Hello, guys. ATP Weekly is back. We have 3 events that we have to talk about, and you've just seen a bit of a highlight reel from Tommy Paul defeating Marcos Giron in the final of Dallas. So that's Mario, what we should start with, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was a title that should have come because Tommy Paul had only one ATP title so far, and being a top 20 player since quite a few months and playing at a high level since basically the last couple 2-3 years. It's something that should have definitely come. I think that he also probably was trying also to put some pressure on himself, maybe because this tournament for a player like him are kind of events when you may feel like, okay, I may win this one. It's a good chance for me. And yeah, in the end, this title finally came last year. Two losses in finals, and this year he finally took this title, especially of course, in the country. And after a hard fought final and also quite well play, he got a little bit passive in some moment, but Giron played very very good match. So yeah, I would say a very good week for him, and of course, try to take the momentum with him for the next weeks. And he will enter Acapulco when he was finalist last year. He basically got almost all the points he was defending, but who knows, maybe having good results can try to help him get closer, maybe to the player who are higher than him in the ranking, because right now there is kind of a big gap between himself and the 13th position. But um, yeah, good performance is nothing very big to say, but for sure it was not it was not due, given that he had only one title since this till this week. And yeah, so I feel like he took himself off a little bit of pressure because it was kind of a long time.
Yeah, other than the final, he didn't really struggle at all. The final actually ended up being close, but as he said, the first title, the first one being, of course, the first title since Stockholm 2021, and then last year he had 2 finals, Acapulco and Eastbourne, both with winning chances, both were deciding sets. Probably felt like he could have won either title. And yeah, as you're right that there's a big gap. In a way, it also kind of worked in his favor because he's like him losing the Australian Open semifinal points. It didn't actually mean that he falls out of the top 20 or something. He's still 14th in the world. It's just that yeah, there's that pretty big gap between Dimitrov and anyone else really. But that 3 Americans sort of 14th, 16th position, that group, Tommy Paul is currently the leader of the pack ahead of Tiafoe and Shelton, probably rightfully so. And yeah, Acapulco, he's got a bit to defend, but as a whole, he's definitely sort of stabilized at a top 20 level, which is a good turnout. Like it's not a bad thing. Sometimes we're gonna say that someone's stabilized or stagnated, but in the case of Tommy Paul, like just staying around that top 20 level is
Yeah.
definitely something that without the Australian Open semifinal, he's still able to do, and that's huge. That's huge because it really shows his staying power at that level right now. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean it's
Yeah, go ahead.
no, just for to end this thing about Tommy Paul, is
Hmm.
that definitely he's maybe one of these among these Americans. He's probably the one of the less told characters. Doesn't steal the eye for the way he's. If you compare to Tiafoe, to Shelton, who are players who are definitely more talked about, but even Sebastian Korda, when he plays well, he gets a lot of talk. And Tommy Paul always, don't know, kind of flies under the radar. But so yeah, it's nice. But I find his game very interesting when he's in form, because he has this good ability to take the ball early, try to be more aggressive, but without even without that great power, but still very very balanced game that lets him yeah, basically to have this good result. Not the most consistent one, but yeah, he has his weeks when he peaks, and yeah, definitely a solid ranking, even without defending that semi-final. Yeah.
Yep. And when it comes to Marcos Giron, the runner-up, I mean, he's a bit of a Dallas specialist by now. Marcos Giron is never as fun to watch as in Dallas, basically. Generally speaking, he's not probably one of the most fun players to watch. However, 2022 semifinal, he loses to Jensen Brooks being a thriller. 2023 quarterfinal, he loses to Taylor Fritz. I don't want to say a thriller, but still, for 3 sets. And then 2024, I mean, this was literally one of the best weeks of his career, if not the best. He beats Moreno Dalboran, Purcell, Tiafoe, Manarino. I mean, barely loses games against all of these guys. And he also gave a good account of himself in that final for sure. The courts definitely bring out like some of the most aggressive tennis that you're ever going to see from Marcos Giron. And even though maybe at first we had some reservations in regards to Marcos Giron, in the top 100 and as a sort of long-term force on the tour, I mean, the last couple of years he's definitely doing enough to stick around, and this final is obviously pretty huge for him. Given that this was only, I think, his second, right, after San Diego 2022. Still can't get a title, but if he keeps going at Dallas, next years, maybe
Yeah,
he can
yeah.
keep pushing it. But yeah, 250s in the States. I mean, he should have some chances.
Yeah, I feel like this too, even because seems like he also he's finding a little bit more of consistency in this kind of conditions. When there is this kind of tournament, more or less, that is going to be in the mix. I don't know if winning a lot of matches, but still can be very uncomfortable to face. Yeah, I feel like he can have a chance, because in this tournament, then if suddenly, for example, in a week like this, we saw that, for example, Shelton and Paul were the other side of the draw. Tiafoe is not in the best form of his life right now, and so he's been great in using the opportunity, played well. Yeah, feels like he can try to. The draw is more competitive in Derry Beach, but if he keeps going, brings in his form there, I don't know how long it will stay there, but he will be uncomfortable to face. And yeah, a player that, let's say that even if I agree that he's not probably the most enjoyable one, but he has some player that he matches up quite well with, and then things can become interesting. I remember also in Tokyo last year, he played a very, very good week. He has his moment in these conditions, so I feel like he can have one chance. Yeah.
Yeah, and someone else we should probably talk about from Dallas was Ben Shelton, who, of course, was seeded third for this. He loses to Tommy Paul after beating him twice recently, and a bit of a mixed bag type of week for him, right? I mean, he has this ridiculous streak on serve to end the match against Michael Moe. Then he plays Jordan Thompson in the quarterfinals, and I actually did the watch along for this match on Talking Tennis, and he was so impressive in that one, especially the break that he got in the third set. That was just a perfect game, really nothing to add there. But the way he was also like just willing to play off the ground, willing to grind, willing to dig deep, which
Yeah.
sometimes doesn't really need to be his strength. The way he was constructing the points with this whippy forehand, and that kind of made you think that okay, I mean, he has absolutely made the jump in terms of the
Yeah.
experience, the ability to, let's say, play matches rather than just hit balls. And then he has a pretty horrific showing against Tommy Paul. Like on and off this week, there are also some injury concerns that people were bringing up. I don't know if they actually showed up in the end, or I don't know if they actually were a factor. But overall, how do you sort of rate this Ben Shelton week, as he made the semis here, but kind of disappointed in the final four?
Yeah, let's say good week in terms that he still reached the semifinal, won a couple of matches, and it's still quite fine, the result in itself, reaches the semifinal. and loses to Tommy Paul is something that can happen. But of course, the performance was not encouraging at all in the semis. I even struggled, to consider it as a big win for Tommy Paul, because it wasn't really it wasn't really a test, because there were so many mistakes, and he was not really effective in the serve. He conceding break points in all his first 5-6 service games, don't remember, but was struggling a lot. So yeah, I would just say that it's an okay week, because there have been a couple of good performances. For sure, he can aim at more, that's for sure. But yeah, probably, let's say that the next weeks are going to tell us a bigger picture about this North American swing. So far, I feel like it's still a bit early to judge. An okay week, I would say, with a bad showing to close it. So yeah, contrasting feelings.
Yeah, definitely. Ben's actually going to sit out a couple of weeks now and be back in Acapulco. As you said earlier, Marcos Giron, Tommy Paul, they are among the field in Delray Beach. Tommy Paul being the third seed and Giron unseeded, but of course still one of the maybe more dangerous floaters in that draw. And yeah, anything else from Dallas that we want to talk about? We had a lot of content from Dallas during the week. Some of that you see on the screen right now because Miles was there. Miles is also going to Delray Beach, as John is now telling you in the chat. So keep tuning into that for sure. And yeah, anything else from Dallas that we want to talk about, Mario?
Well, no, I don't think so. Even because the other semi-finalist Manarino was really a weird week for him, so I don't think like that's
Yeah.
that's much to say. Probably his tournament definitely started with the semi-finals, and he lost in against Giron. Giron was definitely playing great. Yeah, don't think that's that much to say. For sure, the big story is, yeah, for sure, Tommy Paul winning this title. Yeah, so I feel like we can even move on.
Yeah, definitely the Manarino run, as you said, that was just kind of as a fun fact, 49 minutes to make the semis because he got a walkover. Of course, he got a first round bye, then he got a walkover, and then he got a retirement from James Duckworth. And he
Yeah,
actually lost to Marcos Giron in like a similar amount of time as well, like an hour. So
yeah, more or less
overall,
4
he spent
games.
like 2 hours on the court, yeah, reaching the semifinal. So it's a bit of a funny thing, but yeah, he's also going to be in Delray. So we'll see if he can pick it up then.
Yeah,
Even though at some point this week you would kind of start thinking about Manarino potentially winning this title and just another 250,
yeah, that's
but
right.
no. Marcos Giron did fend him off very easily. Let's maybe just stay in the Americas for now and
Yeah,
have the Cordoba Open, of course, which actually was a bit of a historic event. We only had the third ever final between two qualifiers on the ATP Tour after Sydney 2015 and also Kitzbühel 2018. And Luciano Darderi ended up winning it. Darderi sort of jumping from 136 to 76 in the ATP rankings. There's no need to tell you guys how important that will be,
yeah,
especially during the European clay court season. He's going to get so many opportunities, but even like Miami, he can already make it. Indian Wells, it's too late for the cut, but Miami, he can already make it. And it's obviously an insane week for him. He was a qualifier just before this week. Well, before this week, he only had two main draw appearances on the ATP Tour. Last year in Cordoba, he won a match before losing to Baez, which was also relevant this week because he actually beat Baez in the semifinals.
yeah,
And then also in Acapulco, where he didn't, I think he went in as a lucky loser and didn't
yeah,
really
and
do well
lost.
either. Yeah, so Cordoba is where he has his only wins on the ATP Tour so far, but he actually manages to get the title here, and he is also our Jakub Bobro Player of the Week.
Yeah,
Not much of a contest this week, maybe of Sumit Nagal, who broke the top 100 in Chennai, but this was definitely quite close between them. But we ended up going with Luciano Darderi, and yeah, just let's talk about him now and how he absolutely dominated the field. Cordoba being one of these sort of random events in recent years, which were won by Juan Ignacio Londero, Juan Manuel Cerundolo, right? But Darderi will be trying not to sort of follow in their footsteps and actually pick up some more wins during the Golden Swing and beyond.
Yeah, I feel like about Darderi, yeah, maybe it's also a bit of recency bias, but I've watched him quite a lot, so I kind of feel like right now is going to be 76, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a position he can stay in. Of course, he will need to get some wins, but I feel like he has kind of a stable game. So if he has a good serve, and also helped him quite a lot in this tournament. I feel like he will have his chances. Even watching how he was playing in the South American Challengers at the end of last year, he was ending the year pretty strong. So yeah, I feel like maybe not a title, but a good run in one of these tournaments could have happened. If you think about Cordoba, it's in a way surprising, but in a way also not. I feel like he can have the game to try to be in this kind of in this kind of position. Yeah, also let's also say that he basically plays at home there because he is Argentinian. He has the Italian flag, because of course he has Italian roots, and Italian Federation helped him when he was in trouble, keep going in his career. So Italy gave him this opportunity, but he goes there and he plays at home because he is he is Argentinian and he feels as an Argentinian person. So yeah, that just to say, because I've seen a lot of confusion about this and on the social media, because also for who didn't really inform himself, just saying Italian. Yes, he's Italian, he represents Italy, but he's not really Italian. But talking about the tennis, yeah, great week. He played some very good tennis. I was watching the match against Offner, and also coached the final two sets of the semifinal against Baez. Mm, Played really well. I feel like he can try to stay there. He's going to have some opportunities, and it's nice because if he can keep, of course, some wins here and there, especially on clay, which I think it's for sure it's his natural habitat so far, at least. Then he will not be as much dependent as others have been from these Cordoba points.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of chances coming up. Golden Swing was always going to be a big opportunity for him. He also started picking up points regularly only like the second half of 2023. So, especially the European clay swing, he has a lot to gain. And after that, I mean, we're going to see how he defends himself, maybe how he defends himself from the points he's going to be dropping. Right now in Buenos Aires, it might be tough right away. After this week, he also faces Navone, whom he had a couple of classics against in the second half of 2023. One of them he won in the final of Lima or whatever it was. But as a whole, yeah, I was kind of expecting it upon her debut for Darderi maybe in a different way this year. Like, not a title in Cordova, but let's say a good result or two in the Golden Swing, and then a couple of more challenger deep runs. Eventually, he does it in a very different style. And yeah, as you said, I mean, the serve is pretty insane for a clay court player. So potentially this is something that will help him on the other surfaces as well. The rest of his game probably is as clay oriented as it can be, really. Like if you think about his footwork and the way he hits
absolutely.
that super heavy forehand, the way also his backhand is like a pretty weird shot actually, and he kind of needs all that time to most of the time run around. It's gonna be a bit of a challenge for him on hard courts for sure. I mean, the little we've seen from him in the past few years on hard courts, it wasn't amazing, definitely not. However, of course, it's not really about that. It's about giving yourself the sort of most opportunities to grow, the most opportunities to actually be in the biggest events on hard courts. And right now, with that title, he has already done it. He was, I think, he only lost a set in the what was it, against Baez, and that was it.
No,
Really?
and the first set he lost of
Oh,
the
and against
tournament
Barrios
against
Vera, yeah, but
Barrios Vera.
that was an easy match.
Yeah, it
After
was not
that,
the
yeah.
first set of this tournament, but the first round of the main
Yeah,
draw.
yeah, the first round in the main draw, because he
Yeah,
actually started from the qualifying, as we said earlier, beating Giannessi Colarini. So a really insane round for Darderi. The watch along for his semi-final against Baez was also on Talking Tennis. I did that, and as a whole, for sure, this is the sort of breakthrough moment, and this is a really career-changing opportunity
yeah,
for him.
yeah, yeah.
Whether he's going to take it, or whether next year during Cordoba he's going to fall to 120 in the rankings again, who the hell knows? But he definitely has a lot of opportunities, and I'm so excited to see how he does in the European clay swing, especially just in the bigger sort of events, better fields. Maybe even in the golden swing, he can still have a run.
Yeah.
Obviously, his new ranking will not be used for qualification for Rio de Janeiro or Santiago, so he might have to play qualies there. Maybe he will sneak into the main draw. Currently, he's 13th alternate for Rio, 9th for Santiago, so maybe he will sneak into the main draw. But it's just a lot more good opportunities coming up for him. And as I said, he placed Navona in the Buenos Aires round one as well. So speaking of maybe, yeah, and as Mario said, of course, the Italian-Argentinian situation, he's a bit of a controversial figure in Argentina. You see a lot of it on
And
Twitter
in
right
Italy
now.
too, first of all, because nobody
Mhm.
pronounces his name well, because he should
So what's
be,
the correct pronunciation then?
well, he should be named as an Argentinian player, so Luciano Darderi. In Italy,
Uh-huh.
everyone
And
says
everyone says
Luciano
Luciano.
Darderi.
Yeah.
And misses also the surname, but okay,
Yeah, I
it's
say
fun.
Luciano too. Now that I think of it, I'm the surname. I probably say it right, but I say Luciano too. Yeah. That's
Yeah, but I
fair.
mean,
Although I actually got to know
it's
him
for sure.
as an Argentinian guy, right? I mean, it's pretty fresh that he started representing Italy. I think a few
Yeah,
players like that in
exactly.
recent years with Agamenone, Facundo Juarez. But yeah,
Yeah,
anyway, yeah, a bit of a controversial figure. You could see it even in some of the matches where he played Argentinians, because of course he played Argentinians in the semis, in the final, and
yeah.
people were maybe not as responsive to Darderi as they would have been usually if he was still representing Argentina. And on Twitter, you can also see a lot of
Yeah, also, and
comments about
indeed,
being a
then he said
traitor.
in front of the
Uh-huh.
crowd that he feels Argentinian, and then in Italy, ooh, you know
Yeah,
how it works on social media.
both countries hate him. Both countries hate him, basically. No,
No, but
that's obviously an exaggeration, but
yeah,
yeah,
but
it's
also
a bit
a
of a funny list.
good run, because yeah, the field for sure. 250, for example, Buenos Aires is also 250, but the field is stronger. But still, he
Yeah.
had quite a good run, because beating Offner, Hanfman, Baez. It's kind of it's a good run. It's a run worth of this title.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, Huffman always dangerous in the golden swing. Offner should like it too. Baez, the defending champion in Cordoba, which, as we said, has been a bit of a random event in terms of the results it brings up. However, the last final, 2023, was actually one of the most normal ones, and even
Yeah.
2022 as well. So it's only
Yeah,
like
even if
Cerundolo
you,
and
if you think
Montero.
about it, Baez came into the tournament with that very, very bad streak. Of course, it wasn't on clay, and
Yeah,
you
it
know,
wasn't on clay. It wasn't on clay, and that's
yeah, for
really
sure.
all there is to it, right? But yeah, the other finalist as well, a qualifier, as I said earlier, just the third ATP Tour final between two qualifiers, was Facundo Bagnis. And earlier you said something about like a horrific Ben Shelton semi-final performance. It's what happened to Facundo Bagnis in the final as well. I don't know if it was more so physical or mental. Probably both. Obviously, he is so much older than Darderi. However, playing the 7 matches this week, and also probably the mental toll of it, that kind of played its part. However, this is an awesome run for Bagnis as well, especially as in 2023 he had this pretty horrific season for his standards. Like, he barely made Australian Open qualifying cut. He didn't have any huge challenger results, even though he's actually the player right now with the most challenger titles when it comes to active players, along with Maximo Gonzalez, who's not actually active in singles anymore. So I guess Bagnis stands alone if you count it like that. So last year this was a big deep for him in terms of the ranking. And right now he recently won that Buenos Aires Challenger 50 over Navone in the final, which was a very impressive victory. And of course, it's kind of still a huge step from that to just win here. However, he was able to beat Juan Manuel Cerúndolo, former champion, then Carballes Baena, then Munar, then Coria. Coria, former the defending runner-up. Munar, Carballes Baena, such good clay grinders. So obviously, this was a massive run for him as well. It's just a shame we're gonna just leave the tournament sort of thinking about that final and thinking about how he couldn't deliver there, how the decision making was so all over the place. Probably also because of the physical edge that he sort of lost going into the final. But as a whole this week, I mean, he was pretty insane, and he can really beat these guys like Munar, Carballes Baena, Coria, all of these clay grinders. He's both like good enough to sort of out rally them, but at the same time also can out hit them. It's a really good set of opponents for him as well, I think. And maybe if he played Baez in the final, it would have been a different story, actually.
Yeah, I mean, there's still of course, the physical aspect to mention. That for sure it's been very, very challenging and demanding week for sure. But yeah, if you think about where he was before this year started, having this week, beating these very, very solid players and reaching this final, it's great, along with the challenger win. Look, it's now 138, and it's looking totally different than just how it was looking 1 month ago. So yeah, of course, the sadness, as we saw, because for sure he is going to think, of the opportunity, because then when you are in the final of an ATP 250 event, for sure it's never it's never good to lose, and especially in that way, without really having the opportunity to come close to it. But yeah, for sure the picture is very, very nice, because we have to consider a lot of things. Yeah, then for sure it's been a bit sad, the final, as it has played out. It has even taken a little bit of emotion off Darderi, for the way it came, because it was especially the first set, of course, but even in the end, the last couple of games, it was clear that he didn't have what he should have taken to to really fight for the title in that match. But overall, a great week, and he should be, if it keeps going like that. Yeah, really the picture is looking brighter than just a couple of weeks ago.
Absolutely. And when it comes to sort of the other great performance in Cordoba, it was sort of going towards that Coria bias repeat of the 2023 final. Is it particularly sort of disappointing for either player to lose in the semis here? I wouldn't say so, right? Coria still with the Challenger final last week, and now the semis. He defended a lot of the ranking points that he was losing, so he's still like just outside the top 100 right now. Not defending much in the next few months. He can definitely make Roland Garros main draw. And Baez, I mean, we just expect him to sort of keep going, right, and have his chances eventually. He had a very rough Davis Cup match against Popko against Kazakhstan. He managed to pull through. Probably part of that was why he even had this run in the first place, because he was, well, again, very confident in his abilities. And eventually he loses to Darderi. But like, yeah, is this for either of these two players, Baez or Coria, losing in the semifinals here? Was this a big letdown?
I mean, a little bit disappointing, maybe, but yeah, not that much for Coria, because yeah, I mean, you maybe are expecting, especially because he had a great performance in the quarterfinal. And so, yeah, it was really, you may think that finally was going to happen once again. But yeah, I feel like overall it's still been a good week for Korea. For Baez, I mean, we, at some point he was probably the favorite to win this title, but I feel like for him, I repeat what I said for Shelton in America. This wing, you will judge it a little bit in a couple of weeks from now, because of course right now there's Buenos Aires, Rio, and then Santiago, and especially Santiago, maybe a little bit weaker field. He can have a chance. He was finalist there 2 years ago in 2022. So yeah, let's just wait. And still, he got some wins, and to keep things started. And let's see if he will have a satisfying golden swing.
Yeah, and I think with that we can move on to Marseille. Really, I think there's not that much to talk about when it comes to Cordoba. Obviously, the next event in Buenos Aires is also coming there in the Golden Swing. Every single one of these players, besides Bagnis, that we've talked about, will be there in Buenos Aires. They will again be trying to find something. Federico Coria and Luciano Darderi, they got special exempts. Bagnis was sort of next in line, but he couldn't get it, so he couldn't play the event. There was, of course, Sebastian Baez is the fifth seed as well in Buenos Aires, but probably the more interesting, as you said, sort of the more interesting field over Cordoba, as it usually is. And there's a lot of sort of additions to the Golden Swing repertoire there that we don't maybe usually see. Of course, Alcaraz and Nori were in the final last year, and also in the final in Rio de Janeiro after that. However, Jari is coming in after not being in Cordoba. You've got players like Arthur Fils, who last year was insane in Montpellier and Marseille, but this time decides to try the South American circuit. And also a couple of veterans you don't really see that often in that part of the season. So Stan Wawrinka, Marin Cilic. This is probably the most exciting part of that Buenos Aires event. Cilic playing the South American swing for the first time since 2018 Rio, when he lost to Monfils in the second round, and Wawrinka is actually playing for the first time since Buenos Aires 2013. He used to play this, interestingly, I didn't know that, but he used to play this event regularly in 2011 and 2013. He made the semis all three times, the final once, losing to Ferrer. However, this was like part of a clay double he would play with Acapulco. Yeah. In case you guys didn't know, Acapulco used to be a clay court event. So it's actually like maybe since like 2015 or something like that. 2014 maybe.
I feel.
Yeah, 14 I think it was the first one. Yeah,
because for Rio there was Rio, and Acapulco I think became hard court. That's
I think 14. You're right. So after Acapulco became a hardcourt event, Wawrinka basically switched his plans to also play Acapulco a few times. However, then it didn't make sense to like go for a clay couple of events. So
for sure,
so
Buenos Aires has also a better place on the calendar, because there you can make Buenos Aires Rio 250 and 500. So yeah, Buenos Aires is always looking more or less like Rio, in terms of the draw, and yeah, it would be an interesting week, that's for sure. Talking about Marseille, Humbert made 5 out of 5 in ATP finals.
Yeah, 5 out of 5. He's the 8th player to ever pull this off. I should have the list right now, but it's Medvedev, about Andrei Medvedev. It's Thomas Enqvist, it's Schenk Schalken, Ernest Gulbis, Martin Klijan, Carlos Alcaraz, and Hubert Hurkacz. Gulbis and Klijan were the only ones who reached 6-0. So they actually won their first 6 finals. All of these players, by the way, lost a final eventually. I think Klijan is the one who only lost 1 final after winning 6. So he's actually 6-1. He might still make more. I mean, he recently came back. However, obviously, let's say the more sort of active players in that group, we have Alcaraz and Hurkacz, who also lost finals since going 5-0 in their first 5. Hugo Humbert is still unbeaten, theoretically. We'll see if that continues. We'll see how many more finals he can get. But this is actually 2 indoor events in a row that he's already won with Metz. 2020, he won Auckland and Antwerp. 2021, he won Halle. So basically, he's already got 3 indoor titles. Halle is also like a bit of an indoor event. I know it doesn't classify
more or
as
less,
such, but like the venue is really almost 95% indoors, I would say. There's just like a small hole in the roof. And I personally think that I kind of could be treated as an indoor event. So there's a very clear indication of what he can sort of bring to the court in these conditions. And yeah, big thing for Humbert as well here was probably, well, first of all, coming back against Gaston from like 1-3 down in the decider. But after that, turning these head-to-heads around against Davidovich Fokina, against Hurkacz, against Dimitrov, players he hadn't beaten yet. In the case of Davidovich Fokina, he beat him in 2018 on carpet, but that kind of doesn't count to me because it was carpet. However, yeah, Davidovich Fokina, Hurkacz, Dimitrov on the main tour, he hadn't beaten them yet, so it was pretty huge. And he also did it in, so convincingly, as Matthew is suggesting in the chat. Dimitrov playing for so long against Kachanov probably played its part, but for the most part, Humbert was also somewhat unplayable in the last 2 rounds.
Regardless of what we may say about, for example, Dimitrov in the final, but it's still been a great week for Humbert, which is now on a winning streak, let's say, in France, because he didn't play Montpellier, so he did Metz and Marseille. But yeah, in these conditions, his tennis can really be dangerous because when there's this kind of courts where he can use all his ability to change the angles and to even take the ball a bit early without having to put too much power. Maybe like on clay, he struggled a lot with this, even if he got a good challenger title last year there on clay.
Even
but
2, right?
Yeah, 2, right? That's right. Yeah, I forgot about Cagliari. So yeah, definitely looking great and more convinced in what he has to do. Great shot making, and also yesterday the ability of understanding where to be more aggressive, when to just use the angles and make Dimitrov play one shot more, given the situation and how Dimitrov was looking. So yeah, also clever play. I've always known his qualities in terms of shot making and also being lefty. So he was serving great this week, and so a very, very good showing. And in the next weeks, who knows, maybe we'll use these opportunities to try to add some points and to get an even higher ranking before he starts having some points to drop. But things are looking very, very good.
Absolutely, and in the case of Hurkacz and Hurkacz, Humbert, Dimitrov, all these players, they obviously will be in Rotterdam. I think maybe at the end of our Marseille talk, we can also talk about Rotterdam a bit, just more than than Buenos Aires and Del Rey, since it's such a stacked and high-profile event. However, of course, let's stick to Marseille for now. Grigor Dimitrov, the finalist, probably wasted a bit too much energy against Kachanov, but then again, it's not like Kachanov wasn't pushing him. He actually kind of choked the first set tiebreak for sure, with the way Dimitrov
exactly.
was just sort of chipping the returns in, and then Kachanov misses a couple of easy +1 forehands. And as a whole, of course, this is still a great round for Dimitrov, who ended up winning that first title in ages in Brisbane. Almost got another one here. I think he's now 9-10 in ATP Tour finals. But as a whole, of course, just getting to another final, just showing more of that consistency that he's gotten us so used to over the past year or so, and basically never losing in the early rounds. He beat Korda, Rinderknecht, Kachanov in that great match, and then against Humbert, he kind of didn't have much left, despite how well Humbert was playing in the first place. Probably someone to mention as well would be Hubert Hurkacz, who was the defending champion. He actually was also turning 27 on Sunday, so he could have given himself a nice birthday present, but he loses the day before to Hugo Humbert. Maybe the only real angle from which this is a disappointing loss, well, maybe two angles, because one, if he won the title, he would have been number 7. There's still a lot of opportunities for him to get there over the course of, let's say, the next 2-3 months, at least until Wimbledon. So it's not the end of the world, but at the same time also because he hadn't lost to Humbert before, and he beat him in Basel, he beat him at the Australian Open. So a couple of pretty recent wins for Hurkacz against Humbert. So I guess losing to him in straights was a bit disappointing. But then again, he had a couple of break points back in the second set, and he had some opportunities on them. Like there were a few unforced errors that he didn't need to make.
Yeah, for sure. We were getting used to some high consistency level from Hurkacz, so probably this semifinal loss can be disappointing in this way, because he really is playing at more or less a very very good level lately. And yeah, maybe just the fact that he got a couple of opportunities, but overall it was more or less straightforward. And so that's probably maybe the disappointing thing. It's a loss you can have, let's say, like this. So yeah, I feel like it can be considered as a little disappointment, but not so much. So yeah, I don't feel like there's too much to say regarding this. As for Dimitrov, yeah, he played very very long semifinal, but it was actually, in my opinion, a good win, because he wasn't looking that good in the semifinal. He was really nervous. So yeah, I consider that semifinal win as a very good win, because Dimitrov is usually that player that we think like, okay, he plays very well and he wins when he plays well, but that win he got in the semifinal is actually one of the reasons why he's starting getting more consistent and reaching some finals, which wasn't the case in the previous years, 2022, 21, 2019, because he has really this confidence that he can still win these matches, even when he's making some mistakes and not playing at his best possible level. So I will consider it as a positive week for this reason, also because getting this close win against an annoying opponent like Kachanov is, I consider it as a very good thing for him, towards getting consistent to try to be back in the top 10, which is very close.
Oh yeah, I mean Dimitrov has definitely developed a bit of a B game recently. Probably it's like the mature version of his game, with all the years on tour and just the way he's able to rely on that slice, on that athleticism a lot more in defensive positions, especially the last couple of years. It's definitely turned him into a very different player. And yeah, even to number 9 right now, so Stefanos Tsitsipas, live he's 220 points away. However, I believe before this week's points drop, so in the official ATP ranking, he is currently actually Fritz is also dropping something. Yeah, Delray Beach. So he's actually 245. So let's say around 250 points
but
away.
I read, but I have to check that he has the chance to do it here with maybe a semi or something like that.
Oh yeah,
But
I mean
maybe it's wrong.
Rotterdam. If he claimed the title, he would be number 9. If he was in the final, he would be number 9 as well, I think.
Yeah,
So yeah,
okay.
in the semis, I think he would be number 10 or 9. Well, anyway, of course, it also depends on the results of Fritz and the Minor.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So,
yeah, of
so
course.
yeah, there's still a lot, but anyway, he's like 200 to 250 points away, depending how you look, from returning to the top 10. So he is very close, and obviously his results since, let's say, the last 6 months or so, but even a year or so ago, have been warranting of that sort of position. Maybe one more thing that I want to talk about in Marseille is actually the best doubles story of the week. So Thomas Machac and Zhizhen Zhang claiming the doubles title. And of course, they were a big surprise at the Australian Open, making the semis, beating Ram Salisbury along the way, eventually losing to, the eventual champions, Bopana and Evden. And here in Marseille, they also won maybe a less impressive run, but they beat Heliovara Pierce, the second seeds in the quarterfinals. Otherwise, maybe didn't have the very tough opponents, but then again, some really good pairings like Nicolas Salmin and Rusuvu Ori or Franz and Jebens. It's definitely a bit of an unexpected breakthrough for them. Machac had never won a pro doubles title of any kind before this week, so it's definitely quite huge for him. And also Zhang, I think, is the first ever Chinese doubles champion on the ATP tour. Of course, Imi Gu won a title last year in singles.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a huge story, and they actually can play. They have good chemistry. They
Yeah,
have a good
they are. I
combination
think.
in
Yeah,
that.
I feel like
Uh-huh.
they are a well balanced. A well
Yeah,
balanced pair because the Zhang has this great power with his baseline shots, and Mahach has also a great sensibility, ability. They are both serving, well, of course, and so yeah, I feel like they have what it takes, and so it will be nice to see them play together some more tournaments.
yeah. I mean, these combinations of like huge power and big serve from one guy, and then in the other guy on the other side you have someone who's like got very good hand skills, the
Yes,
return.
exactly.
So it always works pretty well. I mean, even at the Australian Open, there was another pair like this in the semis with Hanfmann and Kepfer, which really
Yeah,
could be compared.
exactly.
It's not that far removed from, let's say, someone like, I don't know, Kubot Melo, for example. I'm not saying they're going to get the
Yeah,
same results, but like it's a pretty similar combination. It's a pretty
yeah.
similar
Usually it
profile.
works well. Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely a good partnership, and we'll see if they even continue playing with each other. It should help them that well they should be for in the same events more or less for at least the next year or so. Let's half a year or so
yeah.
before
Even
Zhang
because it can be
potentially
a
could
chance
start
to
dropping
try
points.
to get a place into
Yeah,
a
I
place
mean
into
if they're
Turin.
playing the same
So
event, why not just feature in the
yes,
doubles there,
exactly.
right? And honestly, like it would be just wild if they made an ATP finals push, but I don't know. Maybe it's possible. They are currently in the rankings for, of course, for the doubles, the team ranking. They are
Yeah.
second, ahead of Vavasori and Bolelli, so even ahead of the Australian Open finalists. However, it's likely that Vavasori and Bolelli will get in front of them because they only have to win one match in Buenos Aires. But yeah, last year I think the sort of cutoff was about like 3,500 points, maybe, or something like that. So they have like about a third of that currently. So it's possible for them to do it. It all depends on how much they will be scheduling themselves, but it seems like they are really one of the
Yeah,
better
but
pairings in the
they
world
are
right now.
usually entering the double throws, So why not
Well,
just keep
they
going?
weren't last year. Like last year, they both played like 5 matches in doubles. So
Yeah, but
it depends.
maybe
It depends on if this year they will. Yeah.
maybe these wins can make you feel more. Why not keep going? Let's say like this.
I would love to see it. Absolutely. I would love to see it. I think they're not actually playing next week. Mahat was in the qualifying in Rotterdam, but then he pulled out, maybe because he was also in Marseille until simply a moment
Yes,
where he
exactly.
couldn't. And Zhang, I think, is actually in Rotterdam, but I don't know if he's playing the doubles. Definitely not with Mahat anyway. Yeah, I don't think Zhang is playing the doubles in Rotterdam, but we're gonna see if in the next few weeks they're also gonna be scheduling themselves. I would expect maybe in like in Indian Wells or something like that. They probably should. And they are also signed up for Doha, currently third alternates, but they should probably get in the end. So definitely excited to see if the pair can keep going. And yeah, if they made the ATP finals, that would be one of the sickest stories we've had in doubles, I think. Anyway, yeah, let's just chat briefly Rotterdam maybe at the end
Yeah,
because it's obviously the ATP 500 this week. We talked about Buenos Aires and Delray Beach, like some of the most interesting parts there. Probably didn't mention that Fritz is, of course, defending his title in Delray, and Kecmanovic is there, the runner-up. But yeah, in Rotterdam, we actually don't have the former champion, the defending champ. Daniel Medvedev decided to pull out
yeah,
after the Australian Open. However, the Australian Open champion, Yannick Sinner, and last year's Rotterdam final was a rematch. Well, technically the Australian Open final was a rematch of the
yeah, yeah,
Rotterdam
yeah.
final, but last year it was Medvedev against Sinner. No Medvedev this time, but Sinner is the top seed. And yeah, let's maybe do it like this, like Mario. Who can stop Yannick Sinner there? Who can stop him from claiming
Yeah,
one more
let's say
title? And also, is
Sinner
the
and
first slam sort of curse or whatever it is, however you want to call it, is the first slam nerves or first slam tightness that you can sometimes get after winning that first slam in players? Is it going to be a factor for Sinner?
I don't know. Sinner and Medvedev has made two different choices in terms of schedule because Sinner will play here and not in Dubai, and while Medvedev will do the opposite. And understandably so, also due to all the run he had at the Australian Open. Well, let's say that probably maybe it can get you more when you enter bigger tournaments, so maybe Indian Wells, Miami, I don't know. I don't feel he should. mm, he should suffer from this mental toll. I feel like he should be fine. As for, anyone can stop him, I feel like his side of the draw, his half, is mm, quite tough, considering all the players involved. I mean, he will be the favorite, of course, but if we think that there's Urkac, there's Bublik, who never knows. We never know how he's going to play, to show up. A possible second round against Shapovalov on Monfils should be, of course, doable for him, but still, it's a match that can, something can always happen. So I feel like it will be a tournament where he will be, let's say, tested, even if he doesn't win this tournament. I don't think that it will count that much. Still, of course, a good opportunity for him to add another title, but I feel like there are some players who can bring some difficulties along the road. It's a very, very good draw overall. So yeah, maybe he can also be struggling with the conditions a little bit. They are a bit different. uh yeah, I don't know. He is the favorite, of course, but I think that there is someone who can stop him. Maybe, Urkac or even Humbert can bring something different to the court and can make him suffer.
Yeah, and I think Sinner will clearly be the main favorite for this title. I'm not saying he has to win it. Also, Chorich Bublik, a rematch of the recent Montpellier final, so that's pretty fun. But yeah, I think Sinner is definitely the main favorite here. Definitely not prohibitive either. However, I think maybe the first slam factor will not be like such a big thing for him because he's already had so many huge titles and results. He has followed up his previous big achievements. So I would say that probably I don't really expect it to be a thing. I think it's more so a case of like more random winners that tend to get that rather than someone like Sinner who was like kind of destined, at least since the past 6-7 months, to get that eventually. I think he's probably going to handle it fine. Of course, Botic van de Zandschulp was his opponent in the Australian Open
Yeah,
round one as well. I don't think Shapovalov or Monfils are that dangerous, to be honest. But then you have, of course, Bublik, yeah, who could potentially be the toughest opponent on the way to the semis. Then you have Hurkacz, Rumber, but such is the quality of the draw that
yeah,
basically every single round you might have someone dangerous. In fact, in the bottom half, I think there are some even more striking matchups like the Minor Korda or Safiulin Rune, which kind of tell you all you need to know about like the quality of the average player in this draw and how, for
yeah,
example, Hurkacz, I think, is facing Lehechka, who's 32 in the world. And that's like one of the maybe not well, definitely not the easiest draw you could have gotten because there's still wild cards, there's still a few players who are ranked, but like that's like middle of the road in terms of how good a draw a seat can get here. And I'm definitely very excited at that third quarter because that's the one where I think the seeded players might be in trouble. Dimitrov, I'm mostly thinking maybe he's going to be a bit tired after Marseille. Maybe he actually doesn't have a huge run here, even if the draw is somewhat inviting. But Runa is facing Safiulin in the opening round, and we all know how much of a banana peel that matchup tends to be
yeah,
for a lot of top players, even if Safiulin, we haven't seen him since the Australian Open. And if you just look at that section and like Sonego, Marozsan, Fucsovic, Zhang, Shevchenko,
yeah,
Safiulin, these are
absolutely.
the unseeded players. So any one of them making the semis is really possible to me. And obviously, it still can be Dimitrov or Runa as well. So definitely the best quality draw this week. Obviously, it's at 500, so we expect that. But yeah, it's just incredibly stacked, and it's kind of hard to find an opportunity for anyone who's not like top 50 or at least very dangerous in individual matches to go deep here. Currently, we also have the first match of the main draw going on with Dino Prismic playing David Goffin.
Yeah, good tournament to look forward. 500 tournaments are usually these tournaments where you get these first rounds that you'd never get in, for
Yeah.
example, even considering the ranking. For example, I saw before Grigspur against Musetti, two top 30 player, for example, Master 1000, like Indian Wells and Miami with 32 seeding player, they, it would never happen, something like that. So yeah, it's always nice, and there are some good matches. Yeah, of course, Rune Safiulin for sure can be difficult. Rune beat Safiulin this year, but we know that he can be dangerous. But yeah, you're also right when you were mentioning this third quarter. It's for sure very, very interesting to watch and follow. And yeah, overall a tournament that should play out well. It usually does.
Yeah, and John's saying that if Morpheus doesn't get disqualified, yeah, maybe another playful exchange with the supervisor, as he called
Like
it, I
it
think.
was so funny. It was so funny that fact. Okay, by the way.
Yeah, Ghosty will be turning into that Deminor Corda clash
Yeah,
and
for sure.
hoping for a 6-2 win for Alex.
Okay.
Yeah, he has a bit of a thing for Corda. Like
Yeah.
he just
I understand. I
constantly
got it.
says that he's overrated and
Yeah, it's
that
like
he doesn't get
Korda
it.
and King Wenzheng. It's these two players.
Yeah, Kingven as well. But I guess maybe after the Australian Open, he's gonna change his
Yeah,
mind. I don't know. At least
probably.
he's not bringing up Corda in every stream, Whereas any streamer gonna get Ghosty on, definitely Corda is gonna make an appearance. In some of his comments, Corda is gonna make a random appearance, and also Martina Trevisan will, although for very different reasons. And dare I say that the ones with Trevisan are not really tennis related. That at least not primarily tennis related. Anyway, I think with this we can probably finish. We had Marseille, we had Cordoba, we had Dallas. Next week it's the same 3 events, also Europe, also North America, also South America, also the States, also let's say Western Europe, also Argentina. So it's a bit of a difference in terms of the fields for sure. A couple of players coming in Rotterdam because it's a 500. Lots more players in Delray or Dallas as well when it comes to
Yeah.
the overall fields getting better. So lots to be excited about, and yeah, I guess that's really it, right?
Yeah. Very, very excited. I love these weeks when there are these kind of tournaments all together, different continents, different surfaces. So it's going to be very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean this is literally the beauty of tennis and what kind of separates it from other sports as well. Last week I was kind of usually I would wake up at about 10 a.m. There would already be tennis in India going on, the Challenger in Chennai. Then it would
Yeah.
be of course the European things. Then it would be North America, South America, and then by the time Dallas and Dallas and Cordoba were finishing, you already had the action from the Challenger in Burnie in Australia. So basically, you can watch tennis almost
All of it.
24/7. Probably there were some lulls, but they actually came during my sleeping time. This week we don't have Australia, at least not a huge event in Australia, so maybe it's going to be a little different, but still basically about 14-15 hours a day at least you can keep watching high quality tennis, and that's a great thing about this sport, even if sometimes maybe it can also feel quite draining as you don't really get any time to rest even, and you get any time to recover from it. But anyway, yeah, Rotterdam, Delray Beach, Buenos Aires. Keep watching, keep talking tennis. Miles is going to have some Delray Beach content for you again, so also keep tuning into that. And thank you.
Yeah, and that will also be Buenos Aires from.
And John
Wednesday.
in Buenos Aires. Yes, I keep forgetting about that. That's already this week. Yes, John will be in Buenos Aires. I think earlier in the chat he said from Wednesday onwards. So
Yeah.
basically, it's going to be one of the busiest weeks of talking
Yeah,
tennis
and
ever,
that
I
just
think.
means that you have to subscribe and to
Oh,
follow the
absolutely.
content.
Yeah. 55087.
Yeah,
We can get it to 6K pretty soon.
exactly.
Guys?
It's
We
a
can get
bad looking number. We need.
Yeah, it's not round, I want something round. I want these 3 zeros again, It was so great when we had 5K, but the better way to get to another round number is not going to be now for 587 people to unsubscribe. It's better because it's closer.
Yeah.
It's better to just for 413 people
Absolutely.
to subscribe. So again, thank you, and we'll see you sometime soon.
Thank you, guys.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.